elections, we have a board reorganization where the board reorganizes who will be their chair, their vice chair, their secretary, and all of our committee assignments that we sign up for. We do have one member who is ill this evening. Mrs. Cardinal is not able to join us, and I think it would be wise if we did sort of put off the reorganization until we can have a full board. So could I entertain a motion?
So moved. I will motion that we continue the current board until our next board meeting.
Motion by Mrs. Moore to continue with the current board structure until our next meeting when we can have everybody present. Second by Mr. Frieder. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Just so you're aware, Mrs. Dinos.
Okay. I saw her typing furiously and I thought maybe she was.
I had thought
She
about
said,
this taking
who's
minutes.
taking minutes? And she's not here.
Thank you for doing that, Diana. All right. Before I go into public participation, if we have any tonight, we've invited a very special guest here. It's not on the agenda, so it's kind of a surprise to those of you that may be following the agenda. And her name is Alexis Gomulka, and she approached me a while ago about a concern that she had about the sign at Valley View. And when you pull onto the driveway to Valley View, there's a very nice sign there with the Valley View's name on it and upcoming events and things like that. And sometime, I think last winter, it got perhaps hit by a plow or some type of plow vehicle and dented pretty badly. And it is something that has bothered Alexis for a while. She has remained very persistent that sign needed to be fixed. So Alexis, would you have a moment to come up here and come right around here, please, and stand behind us so everybody can see you. How are you?
Good.
And what do you think of the sign?
Well, I'm very happy that it's fixed now.
You're happy that it's fixed? Kind of bothered you for a while, didn't it? Why did you want it fixed so badly?
Well, I wanted it fixed because, like, when new people, like, come to the school or, like, people who want to know what's going on, they look at a sign to see really what's going on. And I wanted them to think that we take pride in our school.
Couldn't be any nicely. That's the best way you could possibly say it. And we're very proud of you because you have so much pride in your school. So we have made a little certificate for you that says, an acknowledgement of school pride presented to Alexis Gomulka, preparation, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence. Your pride for yourself and our school is applauded. And it's signed March 19th, 2018 by myself, Mr. Shagnon, the school board chair, and Mrs. Vaughn, the superintendent. So congratulations to you. You want to take a quick picture, Mr. Frieda? Sure. With your phone, so we can put this in maybe in the puddle dock, and you can stand right here with me. This is the only time you and I are going to be the same height. Okay.
All right.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing her out tonight. I appreciate that. I know she has a busy gymnastics schedule.
Yes.
And dance too. She's got it all going on. All right, public participation, is there any at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to approval of minutes. Looking at the minutes of March 5th, 2018, public session.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve by Mrs. McElhenney,
Second?
second by Mrs. Moran. Any discussion on these? Yes.
Initially, I just noticed under public participation, it said Ms. Blanche Tanner spoke with a request for a copy of the. If we could just finish that sentence.
That'd be good.
She wanted a copy of the program of studies.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was all that I found.
Anything else on these folks? Okay, all those in favor as amended? Aye. March 5th, non-public session 1.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion on these? All set? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. March 5th, non-public session.
Sorry, I'm very slow. Who was
Sorry.
Who motioned and who was the second? I apologize.
Mr. Frieda was the second,
Penny, I
and
think.
Mrs. Moran was the motion. Sorry, I'll slow down. Non-public session 2 from March 5th.
So,
So moved by Mr. Frieda,
Second.
second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on these?
no?
All set with that? All those in favor?
Aye.
March 5th, non-public session 3.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran,
Second.
second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. March 12th, public session.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion on these? Public session. Pretty cut and dry?
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye. March 12th, non-public session 1.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. March 12th, non-public session 2.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Ms. McElhenney. Discussion? No? All set, Stan? All those in favor? Aye. March 12th, non-public session 3.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And lastly, the non-public session 4 minutes from March 12th.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. McElhenney, second by Mrs. Moran. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Mrs. Cardinal, for those great minutes. Okay, we're going to go down to reports, principal reports. Who's up?
I was voted to first.
While you're coming up to the podium, is it okay if I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
I just actually want to thank all of you for these reports this month. This is very comprehensive. It looks great, so I really appreciate it. A lot of work went into them, you can tell.
Mrs. Richardson.
So we've had another busy couple of months at Henry Wilson. I just kind of want to highlight on a few things. So our student council organized winter carnival that we had before vacation. Students did a hat day, pajama day, band wars, spirit day, a staff versus student dodgeball game, which dodgeball hurts pretty bad when you get nailed in the face with one. Foul shot contest, a robot building contest that we had some community members coming in to judge for us. That was fun. We even had a student inside a robot that we kept making sure his temperature was all right. And it was just nice to see our school participating in a lot of things together as a community. So much that some of our staff has talked about, maybe we could do like a spirit week like within the first month of school next year to kind of build that. So that's something to definitely think about. We have our second annual revival of our National Junior Honor Society. That induction will take place on May 2nd. Ms. Vashon organizes that. And her and Ms. Bartlett, who runs Student Council, have organized all the dances for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders this year. So we just had our last one before the semi on Friday. And the kids are they've been so well behaved at the dances. It's really nice to see. We have a curriculum night coming up on April 19th. We're doing something a little bit different this year. We have Miss Gould, our 7th and 8th grade guidance counselor, is presenting at NELMS this year and on a family engagement piece. And so she's taking her knowledge. Her background is Head Start, for no one that knows that. So she's very much into the family engagement piece. And so she's organizing a restaurant theme this year. And so teams are starting to plan what they're going to do for that. And it should be kind of fun. So be on the lookout for some more information of that. We still have Mr. Bonello doing his comic book club after school, and he has a very consistent group of kids that are coming, and they're writing stories and illustrating, and that will be neat to see when those are completed. And Ms. Thomas is also working with the 3 teachers, Mr. Pringle, Mr. Hall, and Ms. McConnell from Valley View, to the Robotics Club. And that is, there's so many kids, but they're so well organized. They all march in, they all go to the FAME room for their snack and check in, and then they all march back down to the computer lab, and they're just well organized, and the kids are excited, and it's nice to see some Valley View faces up at Henry Wilson for that transition piece too. So Miss Langis and Miss Burke, with all of our snow days and having to reschedule things, printed progress reports in a record amount of time, including counting penny wars at the same time. So we are very thankful for their work. And our teacher leaders continue to work extremely hard to drive all the initiatives that we're doing in our building, all while making kids at the forefront. So we are busy, but it's great. So.
Questions?
No. Thank you.
I have just one.
Yeah.
Maybe, can you just tell us a little bit more of where we are in the process with Marcel Lebrun and sort of, I know you said you're going to plan for like a fall rollout.
Yep.
Whereabouts are we right now? Like, what is he currently working on?
So, with our last couple of snow days, we have pushed sort of what we've been doing. So right now we have our matrix made. So like our expectations for people that aren't familiar with that, of all the areas in our building, and with that we have we've kind of made like we tried to use tigers, but it was a little too much. So we have like our acronym rolled out with our teachers. Our plan for the snow day that we had last week for our early release was to include the paras and start informing them on what we've been doing, and then bringing them into the process of that. So now we'll have to get a little bit creative on how we do that. Mm-hmm. So he's also pulling in other pieces. So like we're doing an anxiety piece on our next, the March 30th workshop day. And so he's kind of helping us tie in PBIS to also what we're dealing with in our classrooms as well, and just really in general in education. There's a lot more pieces. So we are developing teaching scripts, and the next step is to develop teaching scripts for all the areas in the building.
Okay.
Rough drafts of those. So we are right on target to be completed and then kind of tweak before the end of the year.
Will there be summer work?
To be determined.
Okay.
Kind of seeing where we lie in the next couple of months. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Please, no more snow days.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Burdette.
Hello.
Hi.
So we just completed our Jump Rope for Heart fundraiser with Mrs. Cook. She had 26 students that came, and they raised $2,350 for Jump Rope for Heart. We had a couple of parent volunteers that came, and some parents and other students came in and watched the event. They had a great time. To expand a little bit on what Jess said about our robotics team, they are thoroughly enjoying themselves coming down every week to work on those. I had asked what they were doing and got 2 paragraphs from each teacher that works in my building about what they were doing. So I kind of shrank it down a little bit and put it in here, but they're working on their coding on the computers. They just got their materials last week, so they were able to unpack those, and they're going to start to build next week, taking an inventory. They're writing a letter to the community. They're looking for some building help to make some tables for the competition. I know nothing about it, so I'm like, some tables to do the competing with. And they are, they've had all the materials put onto the computer, and they, like she said, they're having a great time. They love coming down. They love being with the older kids. So I think it's been a great experience from that. We are planning our curriculum fair for the 16th of April, and the teachers are planning to do the same thing we had done last year, where we had changed the setup, and students will come and do activities based on our science curriculum that we have updated on the next generation science standards. Our chorus, our 3rd grade chorus, is preparing for the concerts, as well as our grade levels are preparing for their concerts, and those are coming up April 10th and April 17th. And we have been working with Melissa, I didn't put this in my notes, but we have been working with Melissa on our curriculum and doing a gap analysis of where are we meeting all the standards, and are we fulfilling, all the things that we need to fulfill there. So they're meeting with her over the next month to kind of fine tune some of those things that they've been doing. Mine was pretty short this month. Did you have any questions?
Any questions?
Just a question regarding, you said that you were still looking for community support regarding the robotics program. Did you want to take a moment to make a shout out?
I'm not as clear on it. I can tell you what they told me, but
Okay.
I'm not as clear on what they're looking for. I know the students are writing letters to specifically ask for what they're looking for in regards to building. I guess they have to build 2 tables, one for the middle school team, one for our team, and they use them for the competition where the robots are on it. So I know that the students, one of the teams, they broke the students into 4 groups, and one of those teams has been working on that letter that they're going to send out to community members to ask for support for that.
All right.
Anything else? Thank you.
I
Oh,
would say that just the one advantage to the snow that we've had in the last week is another round of snowshoeing. So
Yes,
that's
we had another round of snowshoeing last week, so 2 feet of snow, you go on snowshoe.
That's right.
Thank you.
Dr. Moore.
Good evening, everybody. As soon as I wake this up a little bit. What I had done is in January, I had prepared a slideshow for you, just kind of to recap 90 days, and I know 90 days have passed this point, so I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed to where we have been at Farmington High School. This is for the most part that presentation you would have seen there. I've edited it a little bit just to be a little more timely, except I chose just to leave it as 90 days because it was really a reflection of that time period. But because of snow, there's been a lot of things we've been doing here, including the last early release day, that just keeps on moving some things backwards. All the toys going here. Maybe. A couple things about the positive things that have been going on.
Yeah, Dr. Moore, you might want to, if you can get a little closer to the mic, or maybe turn it more towards your
Let's see
area.
if we can
Yeah,
reach a little bit here.
just so that folks at home can hear you.
No, there.
Yeah.
Couple things about the positives that have been going on. We've been looking at a lot of the things that have been happening in terms of the real time. As you know, that was kind of a little rough start. It's gotten much easier now. Students and teachers are acclimated to the process. We still have some kids that, you know, haven't quite taken advantage of that, and we have other kids that says, let's just do this all day long because it's a good thing to advance their studies. We've looked again at the academic program for the DOE. I talked about that last month. A lot of that brought into math-intensive courses. We talked about the computer upgrades to ICT standards, and kind of updated our whole program of studies, which I ran through that for you last time. We've also looked at the NEAS studies. Now, NEAS has changed a little bit in its operation. There is actually 2 smaller visits as opposed to the large visit. But we looked at where some of our gaps were based on the standards. So a lot of that work is going on. A lot of that is to deal with our curriculum and our curriculum review. And the other part that's very strong within the NEAS standards is that graduate of a profile. You'll see that pop up there. So we've spent some time working hard on making sure that we had a draft of that is currently being shared with staff members in the other 2 buildings. So we were giving them a few months to take a look at that, give their input in it, so that we actually have a very good draft that I can bring back to you here to share this as the input from at least the professional staff within the district. I will share part of that draft a little bit. I've had some faculty members out certainly exploring some innovative ideas. We've got a lot more of application of transfer of knowledge opportunities. Mary Ann has been very strong with that, involving, as I put in my report, the study with frogs that's coming up with in conjunction with SNU. She's also brought in fish and game wildlife people to do their ice fishing and looking at that opportunity for them. I have teachers that are looking at their innovation within the classroom and how can they improve their practice, including just as simple as a first step, rearranging the furniture in their classroom. So everybody's kind of at a different step where they are, but they are moving forward, and that was the one part I wanted them to do. The one part I heard from you guys as I started here and from the superintendent is we just can't keep doing the same thing and get to that goal of being in the top 10. So something has to change. I've got people that are working with Jane Weymouth in terms of careers. The police department has been active with a few people. I've got some people exploring other parts. She's getting some students out to businesses just to do a little bit of shadowing and looking what's out there. So that's a nice building opportunity for us. She's kind of new to the position, and so building on what she knows, building on what's available around in the Farmington area, all the way through Rochester and that. So it's a nice activity, and students have come forward with her with some ideas that they're doing. So there's been some things on physical education and fitness and wellness that they're exploring either as a full-blown ELO or else at least as a job shadow opportunity for them, so a career exploration. The other part is this public display of student work, and that's been a work in progress. If you even notice around here, our photography students have got some of their work up. It's down the hallways, it's out in the cafeteria, just so that students can start to showcase their own work. When I started here, I had to figure out how do I capture the stripes of a tiger. They're rather elusive, and just a short moment that I had just a few days running before we got going on things told me I just really got to start and listen to a lot of people, talk about what's going on, what's been in the past, and I'll move that on so you don't have to look at it too hard.
I had to turn away.
There'll be one more coming, so just wait for it. So I started really looking at what does a good high school look like. We shared the film with them. Most likely to succeed. The students saw that. We had an opening viewing for the public that wasn't very well attended, but we'll put that back out again. I think the most important part is that students understood there's some things that we can do differently that actually make school a little more exciting for them. And so it just kind of talked to me that things need to be relevant for them. It's about reaching higher. It's we have more expectations for them. And above the line and in the green, Stan, you may recognize that as being something from Samor. And during a transformation, how can we use technology so that students are using it as not just to consume, but to create with it? And to move to a next step will just be a little bit higher. I looked at numerous opportunities for mastery. Again, it goes back to our curriculum instruction and assessment. Where do they get the opportunities to show what they can do? Where does it show that they transfer their knowledge? Is it just the same old, take a quiz, take a test, write a paper? Or can they do something more beyond that that's more relevant to them? Where do they get to display that evidence of learning? Where does that happen? Is it performance assessments? Is it a portfolio defense? Is there a capstone activity available? Or is it midterm and final exams? What's available for four-year planning for students? Are they really spending their time at Farmington High School plotting out what they want to do so that they're ready for a college or career choice by the end of 4 years? And is there a solid component available so they can individualize that their opportunities here, or is it a lockstep and everybody walks the same walk? What's their expectations for academics and behavior? Where do we want them to achieve? Where do we want them to demonstrate? How do we know they made it when they make it? This one I had to be a little innovative, and you'll see in a little bit. But where's the innovation? Where's the creativity? How do we get them to some of those common cores that we really want them to be able to do in terms of transferring what they have here to an application of college or career settings? Can we get them to try something new? Can we get staff to be aware of continuous quality improvement? What's the culture and climate? Are people interested in doing research? Are they interested in building relationships with people in the fields? What's the environment? How collegial of a staff do we have? Does that collegiality extend to student groups as they work together and collaborate on projects? Is there a possibility of having student mentors? How engaged are they really? Do they want to be engaged? Is there an opportunity for a professional learning network? We brought in the book, we brought in the movie. Some people have taken off on that. That's a start. But there's a seed plant in there. Can they spend some of their professional time asking them the hard questions, doing some inquiry? Or are they going to be like the sponge and just sit back and have the teacher or the presenter give them the information? Or will they do some of the work on their own to enhance their own professional practices?
Dr. Moore, if I can just interrupt for a moment. Ms. Donetto, just a snapshot of the reports. Okay.
Sure.
You're typing a lot, and
I do too much.
and we're looking at you, and you look a little stressed trying to keep up with Dr. Moore, Mrs. Moore, and picked up on it, and really just a snapshot. So don't don't get too stressed out over there.
We can give you a copy of her report.
Yeah.
Have it in front of you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Sorry.
No, that's okay. This also led to a lot of the things with the ELO opportunities. Can students design some of their own learning? How adaptable can we be to meet the needs of all students? Can we present multiple tiers of student support? Can we give challenging opportunities to the students that are at the high end and students that actually struggle with education and academics and coming to school? Are we in a position to be able to help them? What's available for them? Autodidactic, my favorite word. Because this really comes down to what school's about. Can we teach students to learn and learn for themselves? Can they become self-sufficient? Can they become self-taught? School's about learning, and one thing I keep saying all the time is it is really about success for all kids, all staff, all people who are connected to a school. So those were several letters, and if I reshuffled them and put them in a nice order, you come up with the word Renaissance. You've heard me talk about Renaissance before, and it does, as a French word, kind of lend itself very nicely here, but it's a rebirth. It doesn't mean you throw away everything you have. It means you reorganize it, you improve on those quality components that give you a place to kind of get on the boat. You've seen this boat too. I sent this off to the staff early on in the year, that this is okay to try something new, and I really want you to try something new, to be courageous, because it's not about making the mistakes, it's about moving forward and having a little bit of a vision that we do still need to do things a little bit differently here if we want to improve. Because we can no longer continue to do the same old and expect something different. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I thought it was a nice picture that kind of captured that idea. It says, "I'm sure glad the hull isn't in our end of the boat." So while there may be times that it's going to be sinking, my intent is that we are all in on this together. The one thing I do know, and that if you've watched education the last 10 or 15, 20 years, it's a constant change. And then what we actually do and ask kids to do gets captured in terms of, avert your eyes if you don't want to watch it move too much. That tsunami of a wave that continues to run and run and run and run. Bob Lentz, in his book that we've been reading, the movie we've been watching, education is no longer the transmission of needed knowledge. We are teaching skills, and one skill most generally, how to ride a tsunami of knowledge whose future content we can't even begin to imagine. So if you think backwards to where you were as a high school student and what kids are like now, or what's out there to learn or work with, or what are the tools at hand, or even your own jobs that you have right now, there's major changes. We can't even begin to predict what that could be like in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, when our students that are currently here are going to be a major part of the job force. So once I have the idea of Renaissance and those things that I'm looking at and evaluating and reviewing and working with people on, it came to a corner of my board. That's the most important part. It's not as fancy as Renaissance. It doesn't have the ring of the tsunami. It doesn't look like the fancy boat. But it was used in my world to chart a course for us. And what did I think was coming first? That was certainly that profile of a graduate. If we don't know what we want to produce, it's hard to sit down and make something. And so once we started a drafting of the profile, it became very clear, this is what we're about. This is the widget, if you want to call a student a widget, but this is what we really want to produce out there to be the hallmark of a Farmington graduate. It also said that we need to look at our CIA. No, that's not a secret society, but that's just curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And how do we, expecting kids to come up to a standard, if we can't articulate what that standard is, how are we going to present it and how do we measure it? Which leads to quite a few other things in terms of technology. It talks about grading. One thing that I discovered probably about 4 months ago when I started really looking at progress reports is that each department in this building grades differently. And some final exams count differently than other final exams, and some midterms count differently than other midterms, and some projects count differently in some departments. So I can understand why kids and parents are all confused about, I don't understand my grading. Well, I didn't either, and I still don't. But I can't, we can't address everything at one time, and it seems to me that once we have a profile in place, some of those other things will start to follow through. For example, on our last early release day, we probably would have come up with a very good draft of what is a philosophy of our assessments here at the Farmington High School. That's now going to be pushed off a little bit until the end of the month when we have another teacher workday. But we've started that process of discussing assessments, outlining them, how do they fit to our current profile, what doesn't even fit and we can just deal away with, but really what is our philosophy around what is an assessment, and how do students demonstrate what they know, and how can we take that to another level. Going beyond, we're going to be looking at some literacy across the curriculum. We know some of the standards in terms of SAT scores are very low. We also know, if you've been reading the last papers this week, it has nothing to do about money in the districts. Some of the lowest paid cost per student districts have high test scores. So none of this is about money. It's all about our practices. We'll look at an SAT prep for math. What can we do differently there? What are some concurrent college courses we can offer? I can tell you now, unlike 3 weeks ago, I now have 2 staff members who have been approved as adjunct faculty for a 3-credit and a 5-credit course through National Community College in Great Bay. So there are some nice opportunities here next year for students. Can we look at a student mentoring program? With a just recently approved focus monitoring grant, I have the ability to bring in a trainer that we can have 50 of our students trained as student leaders very shortly. It's a group that's been around. They work with the NHIA. They were all up and down the eastern seacoast. And so they're working now, so they'll be able to come in and train 50 of our students. Can we start to utilize technology? And if Ruth Allen would tell you, I've just been pushing every single penny I can find towards a one-to-one initiative, or at least Chromebooks for as many kids as we can get. And my goal is really a one-to-one. Would I like to have that in place by next fall? Absolutely. Will I make it there? Maybe close. I keep pulling the pennies together. We keep writing the grants, we keep it there. Do I know that there's some hurdles to cross with that? Yes, I do. Because just because a student has a Chromebook in their hand doesn't mean they're using them the way we want them to do. We really want them to change their education because of the access that they have. And it's that shift from knowing to doing. It's one thing to use Google and look up everything we want to do, and we can all do that now. But what are you going to do because you have that access? Profile very briefly. We want students to learn deeply. What are those essential things? Can they apply what they know to something new? Is there a transfer? Can they create authentically? And that doesn't necessarily mean musical score or painting. It can be a scientific idea. It can be a whole new geographical concept for cultures. It could be a new theory in terms of analysis of a classic novel. It can be putting together some other things for journalistic reviews. It can be a societal issue that they have a problem, they can solve it. But can they create authentically? And then in that whole process, can they reflect continuously on what they've done and how can they do something better for the rest of society, whether it's Farmington, New Hampshire, or the world. And the whole goal is that a Farmington High School graduate would be prepared to be a lifelong learner. Again, back to that favorite word, autodidactic. They teach themselves to learn. What we do know is that the illiterate of the future will not be the person who cannot read. It will be the person who does not know how to learn. And if you look at the author, Alvin Toffler, that's not a current saying, but many years old. So thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Moore? Comments?
That was great,
Well
actually.
done, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Student services.
So for your report, we have it, I'll take anything that's not in your... Okay, all right. Okay, perfect. Okay.
So update, student assistance team continues to meet with students. As an offshoot of this initiative, we do have and are arranging an Access Care Night, which will occur this Friday, March 23rd from 5 to 8:30 p.m. The idea is to have community organizations come into Valley View Community School in the multipurpose room and just have tables and information available. It's open to the community. Mr. Frieda was kind enough to put it out on his online sources. We've put it out on an all-call, and it's also been part of the PR that our person has been working on for the district. So we're looking forward to that. During February break, community partners, counselors, we have community partner counselors in district a couple days a week, I think 2 days a week at the high school, Henry Wilson, and then 1 day a week at Valley View. They held a group session to teach students distress tolerance, how to manage anxiety or when you're feeling distressed. I had a number of students confirmed to come, but unfortunately only one came. But we're trying to explore ways that we can share that information because they put together a really nice presentation with some really good information, including some apps that students can access, which provide an opportunity and a means by which to kind of de-escalate. In terms of court information, there are 5 families court involved regarding neglect, and that's 10 students. We're joined on 6 delinquency cases, and we have 3 CHENS cases that are currently on file, another one due to be heard this month. We're joined on a guardianship case as well. We have some upcoming trainings that are really exciting. Paraeducators will participate on March 30th from 8:30 to 2:30 p.m. in a workshop entitled Taking the Plan Off the Page. This is going to be presented by Constellations Behavioral Supports. Working on strategies with students, or how to work on strategies with students regarding reinforcement strategies, replacement behaviors. So if you have a behavior intervention plan and your goal is to get the students to begin to ask questions appropriately, then how do you develop that into reality as opposed to just saying, we want you to ask questions appropriately. So that's kind of the goal for that training. This helps support our student support centers that we're envisioning in each building for next year. So that's kind of building the foundation. During April break, again, looking at building the foundation for the student support centers, we have 27 paraeducators and 15 teachers who have agreed to come in during April break to participate in a social thinking workshop, which is, and I give a little bit of description there, to help students learn how to understand communication. That what a lot of us do intuitively, a number of students can't kind of put a finger on. And so, how long should you talk before you let the other person talk? How much eye contact do you have? Those kinds of, really breaking down the steps of that. So we're excited that that's going to be going on over April. And then a big thank you finally to Shonda Tebow, who did another Winnie Dip year with a group of students, Trent Angers, Mary Berry, Emma Fuller, Sam Fitzgerald, Brianna Chavor, and Michaela Hergert, and they raised over $2,000. And part of that goes back to our unified basketball team, and then part of it goes on to Special Olympics. And big thank you to Michaela and her family. They each year generously purchase warm-up jerseys for the unified basketball team, and we greatly appreciate that. And Bonnie Tellis, who every year drives the team there and assists with whatever she can assist with in getting everybody organized and in the water on that day. So thank you to all of them. You see below the caseloads by grade. And then down at the bottom, the number of out-of-district students. We do have one more than previously listed before due to a court placement.
I have to say, I watched the video of the kids jumping, going into the Winnie Dip, and it took so long for them to actually get in the water.
For them to count it down.
But even before they started counting it down, I found myself picking my feet up off the dirt that wasn't there. It just looked so cold.
Yeah. It's certainly brisk, that is for sure.
Yeah. So they are brave, and thank them very much.
They definitely are.
And that's not a typo. In 6th through 9th grade, there's 14 in every caseload.
Correct.
Just seemed
odd.
I
was surprised by that number as well. And some of those were an increase. We've had some students come in from different districts that have just moved to the area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or anything? No?
Thank you.
All right, curriculum Ms. LaFave.
I wanted to focus my report. Focus my report this month on assessment prep for this year, as well as some information we received on our last year's assessment and data there. So it's a quick preview of our upcoming schedule. We have, I've met with each principal so far. I've even met with a lot of teachers talking about the organization of the assessments. The Smarter Balanced is leaving. There's a new assessment coming in called New Hampshire State Assessment System, which will replace Smarter Balanced. It's not an entirely different assessment. They've kind of reworked it to be shorter in duration, measure writing separately as opposed to being lumped into language arts. And it is the same vendor, so the students will be seeing the same exact format. Nothing will be new as far as what they see on the screen, but it will be slightly different as far as what's reported out, what things are assessed, and how long students are spending on the assessment itself. And this one will include science as well, so New Hampshire will not be doing the science kneecap this year either. So New Hampshire State Assessment System will now envelop all three subject areas: math, English language arts, as well as science. So our first round is coming up this week at Farmington High School. On Wednesday, we have all grade levels participating in the SAT suite of assessments, with the exception of the 12th grade. We'll be doing the ASVAB on the 21st. Anything that's a state accountability assessment is bolded, so you can see what is mandatory by the state, what is kind of a local assessment we've decided to do. So grade 11 will be doing the SAT, which counts for state accountability. And then they'll be doing the science portion, which is a computer assessment between the 15th and the 17th of May. So 11th grade gets to do two pieces, and every other grade level in high school will be doing just the one on the 21st of this week. Henry Wilson, they've scheduled, they have, five grade levels? 5 grade levels testing, so not every student will be testing from March 29th all the way till May 25th. It will be, that's their assessment window to get 5 grade levels done. So each student will be spending about 2 hours, approximately 2 hours per subject area in the assessments, but that's their window. Language arts the same, and this year science is going to be assessed in grade 5 and grade 8 instead of grade 4 and grade 8. They made that transition because the next gen science standards have a natural break in the standards after 5th grade, so naturally they decided to put their assessment there as opposed to 4th grade. And finally, at Valley View, Rebecca and I met today, so I did update what I had sent Friday. So the 14th through the 24th is the window, the 2-week window we've decided for the 3rd grade to participate in the math as well as the reading. And again, with those, they'll be spending about approximately 2 hours per subject area to complete these assessments. Students in K through 10 will also, at the end of the year, be participating in their last benchmark for STAR, so that we have the three benchmarks to compare at the end of the school year as well. Any questions about the upcoming schedule before I move on to the data from? No. Just a little bit of the work I've been working on. I've already started at the middle school. We've talked about the assessment. TIDE is the assessment portal where teachers log in and assess the students through there. We've talked about how to access that. We've talked about the accommodations available to students. So the difference between this and the kneecap and SAT is that some kids without IEPs or without 504 plans can also access accommodations. So certain students that teachers decide could have text or allowed to them through headphones. So it's a lot more, they look at it universally and allow more accommodations than standard. So teachers are looking at their students, seeing who needs what, and what's going to help them really do their best. So I'm going to start that at the elementary schools soon as well. I'm not going to run through every single slide of this. It is something close to 60-something slides because I did do every grade level on its own slide for every single subject area. So the detail, if you want to look back, the link is in that document I shared. So if you want to look at it in more detail, it would take too long to go through slide by slide. So Smarter Balanced, again, was the last 3 years. It's an online computer adaptive assessment aligned to the New Hampshire standards. Typically assesses just math and English language arts. Prior to this coming year, it didn't assess science. We did science kneecap separately. 3 through 8 for grade levels. And then there was 1 year where they did use it for grade 11 before they replaced it with the SAT. So the last 3 years had 1 year of a Smarter Balance followed by 2 years of SAT school day data. Organization of the reading assessment or English language arts assessment, there are 4 content areas that are assessed. So within those questions, they're either assigned to, okay, this is a reading question, this is a writing question, this is a speaking and listening question. So students are presented those questions in a various order. And then within those questions, within those topics, rather, there are certain standards that align to those. So parents don't get necessarily the detailed breakdown of which standards students are excelling in, but teachers can pull that information and cater instruction accordingly if needed. Math is done similarly. 4 categories that are assessed. Concepts and procedures, problem solving, communicating, reasoning, modeling, and data analysis are the 4. If you think about math in general, the algorithms, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, all of those processes are centered in that very first category. So the majority, 75% of that math assessment is not assessing mathematical concepts. It's assessing how do they apply multiplication to a variety of high order thinking style problems. So it's a little bit different than past. 4 scoring levels are reported. The student in each subject area either gets a 4, 3, 2, or 1. 4 exceeding the achievement all the way down to level 1 not meeting the achievement. So, and then a 2 or 3 and 4 is considered proficient. So we're hoping kids in general are meeting a 3 or a 4. And if they're not, if they're at the level 1 or 2, then it's an area of concern for us. So a little bit about the SAT as well. That was our statewide assessment starting 2 years ago and is still continuing. I heard something recently that they're trying next year to make it an online assessment as well. So fingers are crossed that next year SAT will be done digitally, which, in my opinion, that's a move forward. So, it does usually take place in March or April. This year it's March 21st. The makeup day, I think, is April 10th for a snow day. It is 1 day, so if this student is not there, they do have to wait until the makeup day to take the assessment because it is highly controlled paper pencil assessment, so they do not, if you don't have students there, they mail all the assessments back, and then they mail you new ones for the makeup day. So again, it's very, very controlled by the College Board. It assesses math and what they don't call it ELA, they call it ERW on the SAT assessment, and that stands for evidence-based reading and writing. So it's an ELA assessment, but they use a different acronym to display that. There is an essay portion, which is an option for districts to include. The state doesn't. I think next year they probably will, but currently they don't fund that portion for the students to take the essay. But I think we are doing that this year, so students have that opportunity as well. And again, paper pencil, it includes multiple choice responses with the exception of the essay, so everything else is computer scored. So I wanted to just show you the format of the graphs, and there are a few that looked like this. So the colors represent the 3 years. I was telling you the spans we've taken the assessment. Just to point out grade 11, this, I should have deleted it because this is not a comparison of these two because it's a different assessment. But just so when you're looking at that first bar is Smarter Balanced, and the second two are SAT. The blue would you'll see 2015 scores for each grade level, red 2016, and green this last year 2017. And the numbers on the top just describe the number of percent proficient, so that's that 3 and 4 category, so the percent of each grade level at that category 3 and 4. So, and that is linked to, so if I go too quickly and you wanted to see something, you can go back, but I'll leave it up for a few more seconds. One thing I noted, with the exception of a couple, that middle year, that 2016, just kind of generally across the board seemed to be a good year. And I noticed too, I think it was that way at the state too, looking at the state averages, just that year in general. And trying to brainstorm reasons why that happened. We were kind of at a loss. I talked to the principals and they couldn't think of anything that was different between the 2 years. One thing, having been an administrator for assessment the last 3 years, I do remember that was the year that seemed like it was the highest for state support. There were so many trainings I went to that year, and I think we were getting information more than we needed from the state that year, and then it kind of died out the second year. I think they assumed that if they do it once, it kind of floats through, but I don't know if that's necessarily correlated or not. You see the same graph, but for math. The first one was ELA. And again, similar, remembering that grade 11, the first year is Smarter Balance, second year is SAT, third year is SAT. And again, many grade levels having that peak in the middle. Not sure why.
I actually just have a question regarding the graph, if I may. It shows 3 years for grade 4. Mm-hmm. Now, does that indicate that grade 4 is the red in grade 5?
The grade, so fourth graders in 2017 is the green, fourth graders from 2016, which would be, yeah.
So to compare the class throughout, one class would be the same color?
I have the next two graphs have that pulled out. Yep.
Thank you.
But, yeah, comparing the grade level comparisons. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So fourth grade, fourth grade, fourth grade. So, yeah. And then I think what Linda was asking about, this is where you get to the cohort comparisons. So you can see the group of kids, how they did over the course. So reading this graph, if you look at the 6th grade, that the parentheses mean that's the current 6th grade group we have now. So this is how they did in 5th, how they did in 4th, and how they did in 3rd.
Perfect.
And again, for many, that you can clearly see that peak on the red. Again. Not sure why. And that's English language arts, and the next one is the cohorts for math. So SAT school day, on their report they give a mean score for the school, and the mean score for the district is identical because we're a one high school district. So the state average would be a 1036. Total group since it's a national assessment, the total group is the average score nationally of everyone who's of everyone in that cohort, all 11th grade, who took that assessment at that time frame. So this number will compare them to our state average, and then the group average, the national. And then down below you can see the percentage that met the benchmarks. So you can see in clearly English language arts, the ERW score was our strength for 46% met those benchmarks, while 18% met our math benchmarks, or met the College Board SAT.
And this is for 2017.
Mm-hmm. And then that's a little bit more detail for language arts. The last one was the total score between math and reading. This is just reading and writing. So you can see how far, or the distance we were from the national average and the state average. Math, same thing. These are the writing. They separate the writing out. So you can see there's 3 categories they score on writing: reading, analysis, and writing. They're described a little bit down below if you wanted to know what exactly they assess. So reading compared to the state and compared to the national, analysis, writing, and writing did meet the state and the national average for our students. I did put in a couple sample questions just because this assessment is not your typical kneecap assessment, or I remember when I was in school it was the CAT test, I think, California Achievement Test, and those assessments, if you compare them to this, there's really not many similarities at all. So you can kind of see this is a grade 3 math question. So it's not just solve the expression 6 times 3. Which would be like your level 1 depth of knowledge. It takes it to a higher level. Not only do they have to know an equivalent expression, they have to be able to say why it's an equivalent expression. So they still have a 25% chance of guessing correctly. However, there's a little bit more depth included there. And this is just an example of the ELA for grade 3, and I don't feel like you have to read that part, but this is what the students see on their screen. 3rd grade students, when they're taking this assessment, this is what they see. So this scrolls, this continues. So a lot of times they're spending 10-15 minutes just reading this portion before they're even going on to answer these questions here. This they can make larger. There's usually a little arrow in the upper, right there. So if they click that right arrow, this will expand the passage so they can see it full screen, and then they can shrink it back. So the benefit of that is that they can see, if they're looking for evidence, they can have it on the left-hand side. But again, if you're a 3rd grader and haven't done this before, this is pretty overwhelming to look at. And a lot of things to remember, the scrolling and the choosing. They can mark questions for review. But again, just some things I wanted to point out too. There's a lot of inference going on. They're asking them to make their best judgment as 3rd graders. So when they say make your best, or which one has the best supports your answer in part A. So what they'll do is probably all of those can support, but they have to then judge which one is the best. And I remember we were taught how to, this one must be a distractor because it clearly doesn't answer the question, so you can automatically cross out A and you can automatically cross out D, but not so much in this. I do want to skip forward a little bit. There's a sample question for every grade level in each. But this one too, a lot of kids get stuck because they don't see choices at the bottom. And they say, oh my gosh, something's wrong with my question. There are no choices. And as a proctor, all you can do is say, go back and read the directions, do what we've taught you, do your best, try your best. And kids are getting frustrated. They think something's wrong with the computer because there's no A, B, C, D on the bottom. But what this wants them to do is interact with the paragraph itself and click on a sentence in the passage that best shows that James Watt formed new ideas. So they then have to choose 2 sentences, and when they click on them, they turn blue or green or something like that. But that's just different formatting and different types of styles.
Now, before they get the test, though, you can tell them what some of these things are that are coming up on the test, so you can
Yes.
give them some prior knowledge.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and that's what we're working on at the schools right now, and just looking at some practice assessments, and they have some interim assessments that the teachers are going to work on with their smart boards and do group, how do we approach this one, how do we approach this one, that kind of thing. Getting up to grade 7 math starts getting fun.
Anybody want to take a gander? And you'll note that these are not multiple choice. These are do the math and give us your answer.
They write their answer, they don't?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're given.
Oh, because it's on the...
That's what the keypad is.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
not a calculator.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, too, this keypad will have fraction bars and percent symbols, and students will need to know how to enter a fraction electronically. And sometimes they, they're taught in class to put a decimal point in, and if there's not a decimal point there, sometimes it really throws them, and just some of the problems I feel sometimes are more with the interface and getting used to the interface and how to do some of these things.
Making sure that you put in an improper fraction rather than if it's 11/6. Otherwise, it would be read as
Right.
1 1/6. Is that 11/6? Is that, so you have to process it differently.
And the good thing about this is, having been to multiple trainings, is if they did put 11/6 and the answer was the mixed number version of that, they will get credit for the 11/6 because they're not grading so much on the concepts and procedures. They're grading on the application and if they can apply it and know how to do it. So, another one. So grade 8 math. SAT samples. It's a fun one.
So I know what your calcium intake should be.
And there is a link on to the right, if you wanted more samples and to interact with it. There's a link for anyone. It's free online, so parents, families, students, teachers, board members can go on and practice themselves and see how your 11th grade math skills still stand. All right. This additional section, I'm going to just kind of skip through. This is a breakdown by cohort. So it is... And I want to just briefly talk about some STAR data, just because it is more recent and relevant. And the good thing about the STAR, too, is now we have 2 data points, soon to be 3 data points, that we can kind of get, is it the smarter balance, too. If you give it on one day as opposed to another, your results may be slightly different. If the students had a larger breakfast, if they're, are in a better mood, so it's not necessarily a 1 point. So I did want to point out some grade level pieces here. So in kindergarten, you can see, similar to the way they do smarter balance assessing, they have a not necessarily a 4, 3, 2, 1, but they have a 4 category. So the first 2 at above and on watch are more like your proficient, and then your intervention and urgent, the yellow and the red, are more like your not proficient, your 1s and your 2s on your smarter balance if you compare it. So what I did is I just looked at in the fall versus the winter, which I think was September and December, right? September and December. Our kindergarten students went from having 55 on that intervention category to having 15 percent of students. So just, let's see, grade 1 ELA, similar, 41 to 20 reduced. Kindergarten doesn't do a separate math assessment, so that's why there wasn't a math for kindergarten. But you can see grade 1 started their students in winter. Typically, they don't start till grade 2, but this group asked for grade 1 this year for the first time, and they did. I was pleasantly surprised. So their first time taking the math assessment, they had 72%, where they should be. Grade 2 ELA. And these are all linked to that, so if I'm going too fast, feel free to go back in. And naturally, as you get higher, you start to see there's less movement from one to the other, but there's still, I think, I think every grade level had at least some movement from one section to another. All the way. And on the report itself, on the back, there were just some things I noted or highlighted as I was going through this, or things that I thought were interesting. The first one being that more students in grade 3 scored proficient in math than they did in English language arts, which is traditionally reversed in, the other averages, the state average. Traditionally, most students do better in the ELA portion than they do in the math portion. So that was an interesting occurrence, or kudos to the math at Valley View. 51 proficient in math, which is, pretty close. And I think I mentioned the second bullet. On average, the 2016 testing year yielded the highest proficiency rates in reading and math, and that's if I averaged all the proficiency rates together of all the grade levels. That kind of was the best year. That 2024 cohort, which is our current 6th grade class, made the largest gains in language arts and math from 16 to 17. And the same cohort also surpassed the state average by 1% in language arts and matched the state cohort in math, which is pretty substantial. And then the 2026 cohort, which is our current 4th grade class, the percent of students scoring a 4, that top rank, tripled from 16 to 17. So there were 12% at that top tier category last year or the year before, and went to 36%, and then from 7 to 22% in math. And then the grade 11 students matched the state average writing component score on the SAT with the state and national average. I think I already mentioned, I think this last one I didn't mention yet, but the majority of grade levels showed a substantial decrease in students requiring intervention from fall to winter. And the percentage of students requiring intervention as a district decreased from 51 to 42% overall. Any questions?
Questions for Mrs. LeFave?
No, nice done.
I think I'd like to put on the next agenda perhaps a follow-up conversation about this, because I like to go into the link and look further into the whole presentation. It's a lot of information in one sitting, and I'm not sure how much Mrs. Cardinal's been able to look at either, but just tentatively have it maybe on there for sort of
the
a
second?
follow-up. Yeah, because normally she's here anyway, right? Yeah. Is that okay with the board? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, new business. We had asked Ms. Vaughn to bring forward a proposed tiered payment proposal for substitute teachers.
So in your packet, you have, on one side, it shows substitute rates for area districts by way of comparison. And then on the back, please ignore the fact that my
You are not an
position
intern.
has been changed. My secretary borrowed a template, and I'm not the interim superintendent.
Like what?
And it's a college degree. But what I'm looking at is, as you look at the general tiers for those districts that do have, we talked about 3 last week, so I'm looking at no degree or has an associate's degree would still be at $65 a day, 4-year college degree would be $75 a day, and New Hampshire certified teacher with current certificate would be $85 a day. Looking to see if we could perhaps increase our subpool for that way, and maybe have a more consistent coverage. Right now, our coverages are spotty, and if we have anything going on in district that's, oh, you've got something going on, I'm not going to be able to do that today because our buildings also share substitutes. And if they're taken at one building, that means the other is getting creative on coverage. So looking to make things a little bit more attractive, but also keep within, I'm not looking to be the highest in the area. I don't think that our current budget moving into next year will sustain or support that, but certainly looking to make some shifts to see if we can make this a little bit more attractive and get some folks in, because it's been tough. Our staff have been amazingly accommodating and helping to, cover each other's classes and doubling up but I would like for that not to have to be the norm. It should be the very far in between exception. So.
When I looked at this, I can honestly say that I thought we should just drop tier 1 and do with a college degree for just starting at tier 2, or.
Meaning that we wouldn't take substitutes who don't have a college degree?
No.
Okay.
Just starting at
I was going to say, there goes part of my subpool.
No,
Okay.
just starting, I mean, one of the things that we talked about was boosting up the sub pay, because.
We did.
That
I was looking
That
at-
was an attractor to getting people in here.
And I had looked at this because I hadn't proposed the upper tier, looking at this would average out to about the middle, which is what I'd proposed. Not opposed to that. Not sure that.
I'm not
even-
sure, can you explain
Well,
that?
I don't think we need the $65 a day one. I think that we need to structure it, maybe get that $65 up a day. So I just
So
looked at
that
the
we're
other.
starting at 75?
That we're starting at 75. Or we're
So is
starting
that
at
3
70,
tiers?
or.
Well, no, she's looking
I
at
was
just 2 tiers,
thinking
but
just doing 2 tiers, a 75 and an 85,
So
and just
anybody,
restructuring that language.
it's uncertified and certified, and that's pretty much the only
Yeah.
2.
That's just my suggestion. I think that.
I'm okay with that suggestion. My question, now, we haven't had tiers prior to this, correct?
We have not.
My question, though, going forward, if we do have tiers, would that restrict in certain circumstances? For example, if we only had, say, a tier 3 available for a position that we generally have a substitute of a tier 2, would that necessarily not apply?
I'm looking for people to, this wouldn't, tier 3, the certified piece would be for someone who's coming in for a 1-day coverage. This wouldn't be what the long-term substitute pay would be, because that's still at that entry-level per diem rate for step 1 on the CBA. So I don't think that that would necessarily, I mean, I would love to have people who are certified who can come in and pick up and roll with a lesson plan. And a number of our substitutes who have the experience without the degree also have
Right.
gotten to the point where they can come in and pick up a lesson plan and roll with it. But looking to maybe attract some of those teachers who said, I'd consider it, but, I'm not coming in for that. So.
That was just my question.
Does there exist a substitute handbook?
It is,
There used to be.
there's an old one that I'm looking to update, because what I'm hoping to do as well is to start running orientation workshops for subs as they come in, to say, okay, here's, so that they have the building information, that they have emergency preparedness, training, so that there's some pieces that they have in common, as opposed to, here's a key and pinholes in your floaties, and we're going to push you off the dock. It needs to be a little bit more than that. So,
Can I make a further suggestion, is that you get that handbook together along with the sub-pay, and we'll just do it all at once? Or is that too much?
I guess it depends upon when you were looking for this to take effect.
Okay.
If this is going into effect for next year, we had
I thought
done that.
it was my understanding that we were maybe considering having it go into effect for the rest of this year.
Right.
That was kind of my
That's what
thought.
you just said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's fine.
What about, so 2 tiers, what are the 2 tiers again that you're suggesting?
so then she's taking off tier 1, so it would just be,
Uncertified and
Yeah.
or degree.
Yeah.
Certification or a degree.
So is
Non-cert
this pushed
and
over here
cert.
now?
so it'd essentially be not certified, certified.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Stan?
I kind of like the emphasis on the fact that we're looking for certified teachers and rewarding them for it. I like the 3 tiers, actually. So I think we should consider.
I mean, you could still keep the 3 tiers and go like 75, 80, 85. I mean, I know it's only a $5 difference, but it's still.
Well, some of them on there are only a $5 difference, if you look on the other side of that sheet.
Right.
Oh, I know. I mean, I guess what I was particularly looking at is, if I live in the Farmington area, I could go right up the road to Milton and make $10 more, and I could go to New Durham and make $10 more,
Right.
I mean, just
Right,
kind
that's
of
why I
stay
was-
somewhat competitive with.
That's why I was trying to
Right.
with,
drop
And
on
that's
that.
why we had proposed 75 for next year.
Yeah.
But it would be helpful to perhaps change that sooner than next year.
Right. So what is your suggestion to keep the 3 tiers?
Yeah, I'd like to keep the 3 tiers. I'm not opposed to 70, 75, and 85, or whatever I'm not opposed to changing the rate, but I like the 3 tiers because I like the fact that we would then be emphasizing we're looking for quality certified teachers, as opposed to just anyone with a degree, but there is a difference between not having one, so I like the 3.
If we went certified, non-certified, even as 2, it still would put the emphasis on the certified to get the higher
Higher
amount.
pay.
Right.
But the thing is, I don't think we're getting a lot of certified. So.
No,
what
we're getting a few, and we've had others say, I might consider if.
Right.
So,
I think a combination of the 2 suggestions would be to do 3 tiers,
Okay.
but start it at 75. We'll just go 75, 80, 85.
okay.
Is that okay with the board?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frida. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. And that would take effect.
Just right now.
Okay, so
Well, it's-
if we call you for tomorrow, it's at a higher rate. Phones start ringing.
Should it take effect starting the next pay period?
That might be easier for Mrs. Funk.
That's true.
It's
yeah.
okay, she'll be fine.
She'll be fine, okay.
She'll be fine.
All right.
Okay.
She's good, she can do it.
All right. Chromebooks bid.
The district has some federal funds through the school improvement grant available for the purchase of Chromebooks. So we issued a public bid. We're looking for pricing for up to 75 units for the Dell brand Chromebooks. We sent the bid out to 5 companies, in which we received 3 responses from Eastern Data, Trinity 3, and GovConnection. Let's see, Eastern Data for the single price, or rather for the bulk price, it is $397.55. Trinity 3 out of Minnesota is $299, and it comes with a Trinity warranty program. And then GovConnection came in at $300.18 with the Dell warranty program. Because we are looking for the Dell warranty program, we have had to use the program before, so we have experience. And in terms of compatibility of what we already have for cords, cables, and batteries, we are suggesting that you go with awarding GovConnection with the bid at units of $300.18, please.
I'll make the motion that we accept GovConnection's bid for $300.18 per unit.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Moore and second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion?
Just a point of order, should we have that as a not-to-exceed amount? I think on one of the pages it showed the total amount.
Well, we are looking at several different grants from which Chromebooks may be purchased, and so we were looking for a unit price. And then we're now going back through to see, at this price, how many can we purchase from each of the grants? The majority, if not all, of the Chromebooks that will be purchased will be out of grant funding. It won't be hitting the general operating budget. So.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Frieda, good on this? Always defer to your expertise.
I'll ask, are we good to purchase them, we have the grant funding now? Because it says that it won't hold the
Yes,
price for
we do
longer than
have.
50 days? Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Get some first read policies here.
Can I just motion to accept them all as first read?
That's a good point.
I'll second that.
So we can have Angie here for
Yep.
going through them as
Yep.
well. So,
Mrs. Moore has made a motion to accept all the policies presented tonight as first reads.
Second.
And second by Ms. McElhenney. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Point for you to consider. I don't think you were going to anyway, but because of that,
Mhm.
you might not want to, because it would give an added.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know,
All right.
yeah.
Yep.
That was my concern earlier.
Okay, good. Same page.
Old business, any more
I have some new
new
business.
business, yeah.
So, I was thinking, Mrs. Cardinal has been so generous with her time and doing our minutes that I think if we have compensation for a minute taker, that she should be compensated as the minute taker who has been taking minutes and doing it in her spare time. So I'd like to make that motion that we compensate her for the minutes that she's taken in the absence of the minute taker.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Frieda. Discussion? Certainly there's money budgeted for it.
Right.
She's been doing it for a little while now. Okay.
It was
I'm just trying to hear her response, because she's not here to.
I'm not sure how we'd work a time card unless we wanted to do an honorarium that's kind of because to go back and figure out what her time has been might be a little bit harder.
Right.
But certainly not saying that she hasn't done a yeoman's job in getting it finished and.
Right.
and
It's true.
Great job with it, so.
Okay.
So are you okay with working out those details of making it happen?
Would you like me to get that together and propose a figure to you? Or do you want to just say not to exceed what the hourly rate would have been for the last several board meetings?
An average, I'm assuming. I mean, I think I have an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
So you would like to know what the amount is when I get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more new business?
Yeah, I have more.
Yeah.
Snow days, where are we at? Where are we going? What's the plan?
Well, thankfully, what looked like it was headed for us this week is becoming the mouse that roared, which is fine. It can go out to sea. I think we're supposed to get all of maybe 3 inches or so overnight, which shouldn't prove to be more than the road crews can handle, please. We are currently at 7 snow days. And at this point, I am looking to keep the last day of school at the 22nd of June, which would put graduation still on the 16th. Don't print the diplomas yet. Don't put the date on them. But I'm hoping that even with one more snow day, I could forgive 3 days for students, keep that day consistent. We'll have the next week for professional development for teachers. I'm comfortable doing up to 3 days with the hours that we have. If we were to get beyond another snow day, so one more, we're still good. Beyond that, I would want to start looking at some of our other options. I really don't want to have just one day hanging out on a Monday because that really wreaks havoc with attendance. Also looking at, what other options might be. Do we add 15 minutes to either side of the school day? We're still within the CBA, and every 12 days we would make up a day. That's a possibility, but I also understand that 15 minutes either side can also wreak havoc with people's childcare plannings and jobs and what have you. So I would prefer to go that route. I won't take April vacation at this juncture. I'm not going to tell somebody, sorry, that Disney trip you've been planning for 3 years, not so much. And with the professional development that we have planned and what we've missed for snow days so far, I really don't want to have to shift those either. If I had to, I guess the other day would be that May day, but I'm hoping really that would have to be an extreme issue. The commissioner's office is watching the number of days closely, but as they've said, we don't have any reason to forgive anything yet because nobody's exceeded their hours yet. So I'm not sure how close they're willing to let us get. But I'm counting, and hopefully we're done. I'm ready to be done.
Okay. I have one final request, that we, and I've said it before, that we split up the report so that not everybody's giving a report on the same night. It was a lot of information to take in tonight, and
Yeah, I think maybe principal reports one night, and then maybe curriculum and student services, and then if Larry happens to have one, we could do those on a different night. Old business, the journal entry that we tabled at the last meeting, is that something, Lori, if we don't take it off the table tonight, is going to cause any kind of an issue? Can we, it was Mrs. Cardinal that asked to table it, based on some information.
Well, I think what I had done was I had provided the Excel worksheet that particular evening that we had the meeting. What I'm trying to do is to finish up the audits. And the reason for this particular journal entry is because it affects an audit that was finished. So that's why. It doesn't affect fund balance. It doesn't affect, it doesn't affect fund balance, but so I'm trying to keep the audits going.
And until that earlier audit is corrected, it holds up finishing all of the subsequent audits beyond.
Because right now, everything is just draft, stamped draft, not finalized. So I just want to assure you, though, that the backup that I've provided you, these are the documents that I work with the auditors on. So I mean, the auditors, they are looking at our trial balance. They're looking at food service claims. I mean, they've looked at all of these sheets a while ago that you have looked at.
so you need a motion to take it off the table? I'll make a motion to take it off the table.
Motion by Mrs. Moran to take this off the table, second by Mr. Frida. All those in favor? Aye.
And I'll motion to accept the data change, the journal entry.
Motion by Mrs. Moran to accept the journal entry. Second by Mr. Frieda. Further discussion? Questions?
My only question is, since Mrs. Cardinal was one of the ones that had the question pertaining to this, is there any way, when she comes back at the next meeting, that she's able to ask about this information?
We still can follow up on it. yeah.
Right,
Okay.
and the information was provided to you that night during the meeting.
Right,
This was, so you've had it for the last 2 weeks.
right. I
So-
just didn't know if she had any follow-up questions that she wanted. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Henry Wilson Hot Water Pump 10.
So we had brought to you you're welcome, go ahead.
Larry?
We brought a proposal to replace one water pump. The question came, would this be any cheaper if we did two at once? And so the first two sheets, 4 pages, is the new proposal for 2 pumps, and it's the ones after that of the original proposal of the single pump. There is a savings doing 2 at once. And I've kind of, beyond being able to say, yes, I know that it's cheaper to do 2 than 1. Everything else you can direct to Mr. Gordon.
Do we have the funds to do
Yes.
2 now?
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we do both pumps, 10 and 11.
Second by Ms. McElhenney. Any discussion? What was the plan on when?
As soon as we can shut the boilers down, hopefully end of May, beginning of June.
Never stops being cold.
So never.
But is that a project that you'll do while school's in session?
Yeah, they can do it while school's in session, yes. We
We
did
just-
the other ones while school was in session.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Isn't too bad.
Larry?
Thank you.
Okay, where is that on the agenda?
That was explanation for
Okay.
questions that Linda had brought last time, so
Okay.
that's just
Okay.
Information.
information.
Okay, a roofing discussion.
And the bids were up online. I did have Jess dump those into the portal for you today if you wanted to look at the many, many pages of those binders. They've been available to you anyway, but I made sure that they were in an easier spot to find, so.
I think the reason, though, that I asked for this to be on the agenda was in light of the email that we all received from Melanson Roofing. There was some concerns about the bidding process.
Right.
So one of the reasons why I asked Larry to be present and, I don't know where Lori went.
She's coming back.
Okay. Was just a little bit of clarification for the board about the bidding process in general, but specifically regarding this project. I wasn't sure if Lori or Larry or both could kind of walk us through that process a little bit.
Do you want to start? Okay.
This was kind of a continuation of the project that we started back in 2015, where we've been working on doing the 10-year plan for the roofs. Last year, as you know, we did the first roof, the roof J, Henry Wilson, which was basically bid out. We had Tremco do it. We've been working with them on repairing spots in the roof. They've been helpful with doing all our planning for the projection, all the binders that we have and stuff, and the information that we've obtained have been supplied by them doing infrared scans. We're going to do a nuclear scan on the high school as soon as snow leaves.
July.
Hopefully not July.
We need the boilers off before then.
The bidding process, my understanding, and maybe I was wrong when I sent the email, if I had, I apologize, but that we had, the board had approved when we went to the warrant article and everything, we had been talking about the process we were going to use. We looked at TPO, which was talked about with Tremco, and we decided the better option was what we had planned on going with, the specifications we put out on the bid. I have a representative here if you'd like to ask get a little more detail on it, where we've been working with them, but.
Well, and one of the, on page 26 of the RFP, it does call for Tremco as the basis of design for the manufacturing product, but it also has acceptable alternative products on page 28, so it's not saying that it must be this product, it's this product, but it's not necessarily this company. We are looking for like bids that are going to be for this material.
It's not a Tremco proprietary product that we've put in the specifications.
Okay.
And we, I know you had also received an email from Melanson. They did attend the...
They attended. They were one of the eight contractors that attended the pre-bid meeting last week.
So is the email that Melanson received from us regarding that process, was that inaccurate? I mean, you said maybe I answered too quickly.
Because I said my interpretation was that we were not using alternative products, meaning TPO and stuff, because that was what I was contacted about, asking if they would use alternative products like TPO, Firestone TPO material and stuff.
So they're still welcome to...
They're still welcome to put in a bid, yes. But it has to be shown that it's a like material or something.
Okay. I think that's all the information that
I just wanted to know that
we're not
violating our bidding process, or our policy.
Right.
by answering the way that we did, I guess, so. It is what it is, but I'm just saying, if we answer incorrectly, we just correct the statement, so.
And they were part of that bidding process, or part of at least the walkthrough process. The bids aren't in yet, that was the first step that was required. Anyone who is interested in putting in a bid needed to come and do the walkthrough so that they could be part of the discussion and see the area, see what it was. You didn't do the roof inspection because of the snow, correct?
We didn't do the walkthrough
on the roof. So, but.
Because the only thing to see up there was
Snow.
16 inches of snow.
Right, is that happening at some point, or?
As soon as we don't have snow.
Hopefully, we have it scheduled for, I believe, the 28th.
And you're going to go up with a blow dryer and get all the snow off, right?
I'm going up and shoveling a little bit every day.
Okay. Did other board members have, Linda?
Just a question, since it wasn't stipulated in the bid agreement, do we need to have specifications to show what comparable material, what the specifications for it to meet comparable?
The specifications are in the RFP, the request for proposals, and then it would be on the bidders, it would be incumbent on them to be telling us or proving that what they have is comparable. We've said this is what we want, and then if they're proposing something else, they need to show us that it's apples to apples.
Which is also in the bid that there's a representative from the manufacturer of what we're using that's on site to ensure that it's being installed properly, and so the warranties that are proposed have to be comparable.
Right.
Anything, Lori, to add?
No, actually, I think it's got it covered. It's got it covered very thoroughly.
Is the board all set with that information? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
Just to bring and you asked me about the piece that's in your packet. I know there were questions that had come up around the school security improvement grant and the funding. And so this is really more just informational for explanation. So at the board meeting, at the budget committee meeting rather, for you to be able to explain that. And if there's anything else that you need from that, let me know. It's just saying that the grant application was submitted on February 28th. We've applied for $74,235. If requests are granted, we're expected to fund 20% of the share of the total appropriation. It's equivalent to $14,847. We did not put in a matching dollar amount when we budgeted for this school year because the grant had not been released. So but we anticipate approval by the end of March. And to fund that, we're looking to use some of our health insurance savings and from this year. So that's where that would come from. We're not just, pulling from hither and yon. We know which line item that would come from in order to be able to do that. We, like I said, hope to know soon. And while we can say when we get it, yes, we have the grant, and there will be pieces going in because it is a security grant, we will not necessarily be discussing the specific pieces that are in that because, for obvious reasons, we're not telling you exactly what changes we're making. So.
Okay. Nice. Any public participation?
Please.
So, yeah, and can you state your name and tell us where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Steve Facto. I'm a taxpayer in New Hampshire.
Okay.
I also have 35 years plus experience in the roofing industry as an industry professional.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you represent a company that is going to perhaps be involved in the bidding process?
Not currently.
Are you a resident of Farmington?
No.
Typically, our public participation is for residents of Farmington. So I'm real hesitant about what the relevance is here in the fact that you're not a resident of Farmington.
I'm not here to do a sales pitch on you, on the school board or anybody in the room.
Okay.
I'm here to talk about the specifications and the perceived proprietary nature of the specifications and the benefit to the town of Farmington to opening up the specifications for similar roofing materials that meet the warranty and performance requirements of the specifications.
What company do you work for, sir?
I work for Eastern Architectural Representatives. We represent Firestone.
From the email from today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is the board comfortable with this?
Actually, I'm not. I mean, you have the opportunity still through April 5th to go back and read through. Am I right? The bids close April 5th?
Now, one of the requirements to bid was to attend last week's walkthrough.
They said that they had, right?
Well, another company who had contacted us did attend. I don't know that anyone from Eastern Architectural did.
We're a manufacturer, not
Okay.
an installer,
Okay.
so we wouldn't have attended the pre-bid with the intention of bidding the project. We wouldn't
Okay.
be submitting a fiscal bid on the project.
I think this is more something that you would want to set up with Larry to talk about what your products could do for our district. I don't think it belongs here at this meeting.
I'm just trying to, I don't like for anyone to not feel welcome at our meetings. Of course, it's a public meeting, but at the same time, public participation is usually reserved for residents of Farmington to talk about specifics of Farmington. And I wonder if there's another venue for you to be able to share your information rather
That's
than
what I
during.
was hoping to gain tonight.
Yeah. What's the board's, I've got one that's not comfortable. How do you folks feel?
We could certainly set up a meeting with Larry.
We could set up a meeting with the business administrator and the facilities manager.
Yes.
I think that's appropriate.
I suppose.
I'm just trying to think of what avenue the impact of your information would have. I don't know if you talking tonight it would make any difference. I'm thinking perhaps if we set up a meeting more pertinent, you might have a better response.
Yeah,
Because they're on the.
I'm really looking to try to compel the town to review and accept alternate materials. I think you can get a superior roof system for a better value. And I think that there's some environmental attributes of the systems that are specified that should be considered by the town, as well as it's got as much to do with environmental as it does to do with the financial impact to the town.
There were representatives at the walkthrough who do or who are looking to use this product or a similar product. And so this product was represented at the walkthrough. And so
What do you mean, this product?
The product
the Firestone
Okay.
TPO, correct? That's what you're,
The specification is a PVC specification.
I understand that, but you're representing Firestone's TPO product, is that correct?
I'm representing Firestone.
Okay.
Really, I'm here not in a professional capacity, but more as, like I said, as a taxpayer to compel the town to look at the specification, the systems that are being specified, comparatively speaking to other systems that are offered out there that are time-tested, that are environmentally friendly.
And so we.
That could be had at a significant cost reduction, which is a benefit to the town.
We do have some bidders who are looking at using just such a product that and I don't know at this point, this is your best venue. And just so that you know, you're talking to the school board, not the town side of things, so they are separate entities for this process.
Yes.
So just to make that clear for you.
I think we get your point, you've reiterated your email that we received from you earlier today.
Yeah, I sent a previous email with a lot of information in it.
Okay, but to go much further tonight, I'm not sure is appropriate.
Right.
So
I was just kind of hoping for a short, I think I've already accomplished what I said.
I think you have.
Quite frankly.
I think you have, and I hope you feel that way, because I'm not trying to squelch you. It's a little unorthodox for the public participation that we usually receive. So.
Yes.
But thank you.
So I'd like to, you guys all have received emails from me, and you have my contact information. I would be happy to hear from any of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public participation? Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 2nd, 6:30, right here at the high school, our first meeting of April. I will entertain, thank you for those of you that came out this evening, and to those of you who viewed from home. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public session 1 on the RSA 91A:3I, A, B, and C for for nominations and resignations. So moved by Mr. Frieda, second by Ms. McElhenney. All those in favor by roll? Aye. Good night, folks.